Alright, the next step is going to involve a little bit of work on the metal plate. Let's actually put the Saturn aside for now. Now our metal plate, we need to remove these 4 posts. These were previously where the CD drive sat, and since we no longer will ever have to use a CD drive, unless we absolutely want to, we'll remove these by unscrewing the 4 mount screws in the back, and use these mounting spaces to actually mount our 3D printed harness for our mode SD adapter. So let's get started. Okay, here's our 3D printed SD card adapter from Laser Bear Industries, and we're going to mount that right there. So let's turn this guy over. Start the mount. Alright, now we are going to reattach the shield and our SD card adapter back into the chassis. Right here. Now we're going to install our mode board inside the harness. Just need to remove the SD card reader momentarily while we slip the mode board in, and we'll reassemble. Alright, and now it's time to install our mode, the illustrious mode. This is what the board looks like. There's 2 switch buttons here, which we're going to be mounting to the buttons on the 3D printed housing. The side with the ribbon cable interfaces are facing the interface to the Saturn mainboard ribbon cable. And thankfully the 3D printed harness here has a little mounting pin that you just insert to the middle there, and then you just reattach the mount kit. Before we get to that, we want to make sure that all of our cables and power connectors are plugged into the mode. We are going to be using a 21-pin Saturn, so let's get out our ribbon cable. And plug it into the 21-pin connector on the mode. We are also using a motherboard that has a 5-pin connector to the power supply. So we're going to insert that into the 5-pin connector up onto the mode board. Just like that. Now, one thing I'd like to do with this install, the mode has the capability to tap power either directly from the Sega Saturn motherboard or by running a cable to the Saturn power supply and tapping power feeds directly from there. Because we're going to be powering an SSD and a micro SD card, in addition to perhaps other things in the future, I'd like to draw power directly from the power supply. Just gives you a little bit more power. This cable that is included with the mode is basically just a tap cable, and we're going to be inserting the black wire into the ground pin on the power supply. Just kind of sandwich it in like this, and the red wire is your 5 volts power. And that is fed in like that. We're also going to reinsert our power supply separator so we don't cause a short. Alright. And insert our power supply. Both those wires are taut. And let's attach to the external power supply connector. Now this is a really tight fit. I'm not sure. This cable is so short, but let's see if we can get it here. Alright, that is in. And we're going to make sure our selector switch is set to 5-volt external rather than the Saturn mainboard power. Alright, let's secure our power supply while we're here. Alright, and now we can proceed with installing the SD card reader. I'm going to insert this first. This is the micro SD portion of it. And assuming it goes in like this. If I can get it connected. There we go. Let's insert our SATA hard drive. Alright, here's our Samsung 870 EVO. 1 terabyte in size. Let's insert that here. I'm just going to make a quick fold in the cable. Just like that. All right, make sure our buttons work. Yes, indeed. All right. Alright folks, at this point we are ready to perform our bare minimum test just to make sure everything is plugged in correctly and working properly. We want to do that before we actually start to cosmetically and physically make everything secure. Of course we don't have the shield plate screwed in, nor do we have the power button connected to the power supply or the shell reattached. But what we want to do before we even get started with all that stuff is to make sure and test our system, make sure everything is working before we go through the trouble of putting it back together. Just reattach the power button. Let's plug in our video cable. And reattach our power cable. And like they said in Austin Powers, hit the switch! Alright, that's a good sign. It is booting into something. There it is, the mode. Ladies and gentlemen, it is alive! Alright. And it's reading the contents of the SSD. You can see the different folders that I made there for different regions of games. We'll do a full tour of this once we get everything put back together. But ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. This is awesome. We actually have our mode working very well within the Saturn. And pulling power directly from the power supply using these power leads, albeit a bit short, but we did make that work. And I'd say we are in a good state now to put everything back together and actually reassemble, make it look pretty. All right, let's take care of business by, of course, turning everything off. You don't want to get shocked. All right, let's put it back together and make it pretty. I believe we are ready for the reinstallation of the shell. Let me zoom up a little bit. Did forget about that, didn't I? Let's feed the switch through the hole in the back. Lower the shell in place. And resecure the territory switch. I completely forgot how much of a pain in the butt this is to install these DPTT switches on this thing. But it looks like we got it here. Now, with the installation of the mode, this territory switch really isn't needed anymore, since the mode will automatically adjust the region based on the ROM that's loaded. But just to have some old school fun, we're going to keep this guy on. It's not going to hurt anything. And I remember installing this thing was a major pain in the butt, so I don't want all that work to just go to waste. Alright. Before we put the final screws in the chassis, let's reinsert all the accessories. Make sure that we can insert an SD card. Our card reader is working. Here's the video CD card. I can insert it there. Now there is an additional mod. Actually, before I insert this, there is an additional mod that can be done to the Saturn. You see that lithium battery that's right there? It's kind of a little hard to see there. That is basically what maintains your save states within the memory of the Saturn, without having any sort of cartridge save or backup save solution. All your save games are stored internally on the Saturn and are based on battery backup memory. So whenever this battery goes, this is just a CR2032 battery, lifespan of about 3 to 5 years depending on how long. Whenever this battery goes, so does your save game data. So the solutions that have come out over the past, in the past, is to use a save game cartridge very similar to a memory card, and also things like an action replay cartridge that'll back up your save games. With the advent of FRAM memory, you're able to install and do what they call an FRAM mod, which requires you to unsolder the save game storage memory of the Saturn and solder in its place an FRAM module. And FRAM is basically a form of NVRAM that keeps your save states indefinitely, your save games indefinitely. So that could be an option for mods in the future, but because we have access to save game cartridges, that's not really a big deal. Alright, so there is our There's our video CD card. Let me just get the door for that. Where did it go? Here it is. All right. So here we have our Sega Saturn. And ideally this should be flush. Hopefully it will be once we get the shell on. And let's give this one more test before we finally put the chassis screws in.